Beyond.
Beyond.
What was that?
I watched Beavis and Butthead Do America last night.
Did you eat a spring?
Beyond. Yeah, so more Bounce the Ounce. What's up? Welcome to Podcast Beyond number 389. I'm your host, Max Scova. With me is Marty Sleva.
Hey, how's it going?
Brian Altano. That's what it says on the cup.
That's right.
Mitch
Branding.
Dyer.
It's very rude that you didn't answer Marty's question.
What, did I eat a spring?
No. Or how are you?
Oh, I'm okay.
All right.
How are you?
Good.
You don't
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
How is everyone?
I have a goal.
Everything's really good.
I have a goal for this episode.
Yeah.
What is
To
it?
breathe less into the microphone.
That's great.
That's a
Thank
good-
you
that's
so
a good
much.
tip.
I think a
No,
lot of
it's-
people.
We're constantly trying to improve everything.
Yeah.
All of it.
But also, that's just because my lungs aren't good, and I have asthma, and I smoke, and there was a dog in the office today.
You also, it's fun. We actually made this microphone cover, this pop shield. It's actually made out of woven French poodle fur.
That explains everything.
If you see like dogs that have like the poofy little like black bobtails and the
Yeah.
big ears, and the French ladies are walking them, that's what we make microphones out of.
Oh, French ladies.
Yeah, there you go. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's they keep making games. They keep coming out with more of them.
When
and
will they stop?
I don't know. I want to sleep so much, but they keep making the games. Witcher 3, we got our first 15 minutes of that. Did you get a look at that, Mitch? Was that a thing you did?
I've seen that video.
You went all the way to
You also went to Holland.
Poland.
to Marty's motherland.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is.
That's awesome. We can still talk about Bloodborne because people are still playing Bloodborne.
Me specifically.
I am
I
too.
want to talk about some Bloodborne.
Yeah, man.
Star Wars Battlefront is going to be getting revealed in like a week, kind of.
2
We're going to
weeks.
see 2
Yeah.
weeks.
2 weeks.
We're going to see, but I guess they announced that they're doing playtesting for that. And then meanwhile, Square Enix is doing this weird viral thing, which may or may not be for Deus Ex.
Every time I hear that, I think of Day of Sex. Like an entire
I think of
day of fornication.
Dave Sex, which is like that sounds like the lead singer of a band that would wear shorts on stage. Yo, what's up? It's me, Dave Sex, lead singer of Inauguration. We spell it with an 8.
I'm a condom machine. Like
That's
guitar.
the DJ.
My name is Dave Sex.
Oh my God.
How do we get out of this?
All right. So yeah.
Great work so far,
What do I want
Max.
to talk
Yeah.
about? I don't know. Mitch,
Yeah. Yeah, Max. What can I do for you?
why don't you stop being the Mitcher and start being the Witcher and tell us about what it's like in the land of Poland where they make.
Jeez.
I
Yeah.
want to throw everything on this table.
I am ruining everything.
What is wrong with you on Mondays?
I
You
don't
are-
know. I don't know. It's a weird mix of like caffeine and sadness and
Okay.
Garfield and
Someone told
Water.
me that Garfield, the official Garfield Twitter account, blocked you.
I've been blocked by Garfield on Twitter because I was too mean to it.
The official Kathy
Phenomenal.
Twitter or Instagram blocked. Wow.
Marty is actually choking.
Wow. If you want to see
Oh,
water come
wow.
out of Marty's nose, watch the podcast me on video. All right.
I did not expect a Kathy joke.
Well,
Oh
I
wow.
thought we'd get out of this episode without a Kathy.
here we are.
Okay, so Mitch.
What was the question?
Mitch, you went to Poland to
Yeah,
play a
man.
video game? That's insane. Why does that still happen? Why don't they just send the video game to you?
I don't know, but we went to Warsaw and we went to CD Projekt Red's office and
Yeah.
we played. We sat down and they were like, "Yo, do you guys want to play The Witcher for 2 hours?" And we said, "Yeah, no problem, cool." And there were 4 of us. It was me, Daniel Krupa in the UK, Rich Bearpark, and Gav Murphy all out of the UK. We sat down to play for 2 hours, and 6 hours later, they were like, "You guys want to get dinner? You done?" So we played Witcher 3 for 6 hours,
That's awesome.
which is the first time we have ever played that game for more than like a half an hour to
Now-
see if it's a real game.
Did you play the first 2 hours 3 times, or did you play
No, we
6 hours?
we started and then we just played straight through for 6
You
hours.
laugh, but we've gone to events where they're just like,
Yeah.
play it again.
It was like
Replay.
You did that for Metal Gear, didn't you, Max?
Just beat it. I
Beat
mean,
it
that's not
3
very
or 4
long. Game.
times.
The difference is that that's apparently you played less than 3% of The Witcher.
Yeah.
Because that is apparently an over 200-hour-long game.
Which is something I can totally see. Like we were playing the game and we played a few hours and we zoomed out on the map. We're like, wow, look how much stuff there is. Like, look at all these areas we haven't been to, all these towns, all these quests that we haven't opened up. And they're like, yeah, check it out. Here's this build over here where you can see every quest and every icon of every location. And it's the same map, but it's just like little icons everywhere, like everywhere.
So I was going to ask you about that actually, because that sort of overwhelms me in games like Assassin's Creed. Like
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed actually starts to feel like, especially the newest one, when you open up your map, it's like,
Stuff.
oh my god, I have
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much to do. It's actually slightly overwhelming.
See,
It's awesome to sort of conquer it all.
Big
Well,
difference
but-
though is that in the case of Assassin's Creed, I feel like a lot of time that stuff is collectibles.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be like climb the thing or like get the piece of paper that blew away.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of the
in the
time
case
in
of The Witcher,
Witcher,
it's a story.
it's either a story that it's like a quest story that you can go find, which is great because the side quests are like long enough and substantial enough and kind of segue naturally from one to the next that they are their own story and they are like the building blocks of a larger drama.
There's something funky in my haunted beach house. Geralt, want to go check it out?
Yeah, and that,
What
like,
could go wrong?
There's one quest where like you get a job from a guy in a bar and you go do it and you help somebody do a thing. You come back and you're like, I did it, pay me, and he says, cool, no problem. And then dudes who don't like him come in to like give him trouble because you did this thing. And depending on how that situation goes, you might end up in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like this other side quest where it's like, you need to break out of jail now. And you could just avoid that if you like talk through
Wow.
the situation.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Now here's a big question I have, because The Witcher is a game. This is a weird game to be coming out on a Sony platform because the last two games never did.
True.
They do not
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you can play Witcher 2 on PC or on 360. You can play Witcher 1 on PC. Like that's it. I guess you can play it on Mac too, but you know who's counting. So how does it work story wise? Because like I've read some of the books. I've read
Yep.
the comic. I've played Witcher 2. I was watching the first 15 minutes of gameplay and I was like, what the hell are they talking about again?
It's a
Yeah,
really good
like,
question. Like,
there's-
what is their sort of plan for catching people up?
There kind of isn't one. I mean, they have an opening cutscene where it's like, it's very clear, like, oh, here's this like black-haired sorceress that the main character is pursuing in a way that is like, he clearly is in love with her, and it's not like he is chasing her while she and he are both being chased by this other nefarious group.
Right.
So that's all in like cutscenes, and even like the loading screens have descriptive comic book style story elements. But like if this is your first Witcher, it is actually I think the best place to start in the entire series.
Good.
The first game has obviously it's like the foundation, but it's very dense, it's very long, there's a lot to take in, there's a lot of unnecessary story stuff. The Witcher 2 is like, cool, you played The Witcher 1? Right on, cool. No, I didn't. I don't care. We're going to move on as though you have, and we're not going to stop to linger on anything. Like,
and
if you
by
don't
the way-
understand, sorry. They move
Yeah.
on. The Witcher 3 is, like, that history exists, but it's not like you have to understand what happened in The Witcher 2 to even understand why you're doing the thing you're doing. It's like, got it. Okay, Geralt is in love with this woman named Yennefer. Yennefer is missing.
Her name's Jennifer. You mispronounced
Sorry,
it.
that's my mistake.
Yeah.
So Geralt goes after Jennifer.
Gerald. It's actually Gerald.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gerald
it's
Riviera.
Geralt and Jennifer.
Geraldo
So-
Riviera.
So Dave is chasing after Julia.
It's Yave.
So Geralt is looking for Yennefer, and that just takes you on your quest. And throughout that, it's like there's just more time to stop and take in the world and learn about stuff and learn things from the locals and like read your diary entries and learn about characters and locations and histories in a way that The Witcher 2 didn't. So if this is your first time, yes, it's going to be overwhelming because it's here's this lived-in world that's been here for centuries and there's all of these conflicts that's building up into this climactic third chapter. But you're going to be all right. Like you're going to figure it out. Like the motivations of the characters are
So you think it'll be an
simple enough.
okay sort of like first? This is your first Witcher game.
I think it's totally fine.
Okay.
Because we went like the 3 UK guys didn't ever play a Witcher game.
Yeah.
And they were all like, yeah, it's a little much to take in, but all of it is really cool.
I mean, honestly, a lot of
I
fantasy
like it all.
games when you jump in are a little much. A lot of
Yeah,
fantasy anything is just a
sure.
little much.
I mean,
where it's
the-
like I have to learn all these new rules. And
But it's
the
the
con-
difference
the co-
between something like Dragon Age and Witcher 2, where Dragon Age takes the time to be like, hey, welcome. Here's some cool stuff. Here's
Yeah.
some this race. Here's this church. There's this conflict.
yeah.
And you're like, all right, I get the basics. Everything else is just dressing and, you know, people in the world talk about it as though it's a thing that just happens there. Like, The Witcher 2 did not do that. It's like it did not take any time to talk to you at all about what you were seeing. It was
And
like,
I mean, the thing is,
they know what this is.
it's
so
also-
deal with it.
Witcher 2, I mean, The Witcher, I never played the first one, so I don't know where that fell exactly, but Witcher 2 takes place after 6 books. Like, it takes place after an entire series of novels.
Yeah, well, so the first game adapts some of the short stories
Right.
from that collection.
Kikimora.
Sure.
Yeah.
Don't remember that one.
It's like a spider with
That's a
alligator
lot of-
legs. Or
Oh, okay.
alligator with spider legs.
That's kind of a lot of homework
Yeah.
Yeah.
expected before you start
yeah.
a game.
Yeah.
So the first book was like, hey, we're going to grab from these short stories and a little bit from like over here, and we built this new game. The Witcher 2 was an entirely original story with some influences from the books. The Witcher 3 is like, forget all of that. Like,
Okay.
there's this stuff with Yennefer that I don't really think has been explored. The stuff with Ciri is happening at it's almost like a different timeline. Because the Ciri story and the Yennefer story are happening at a different time, but they're
Okay.
happening together here.
Interesting.
Okay, I'm like
Ciri being
I'm
the second playable character and like Geralt's protege.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Ciri, I mean, Ciri's introduced in the books, and not all the books are even out stateside yet. You know, unless you want to pirate some books with fan translations
or
or
you can
whatever.
read Polish.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking
Don't
forward to
pirate
this.
or don't read Polish.
Both of them.
Just don't read.
One of them is easier than the other.
Um,
But yeah, I'm extremely excited about this. I mean,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
the. I'm not even gonna. This is one of the reasons I bought a PlayStation 4. I was just like, this is probably gonna be one of my first like really sinking my teeth into
Yeah,
a game.
yeah.
And just-
Yeah.
I
just-
built my PC in 2011 for The Witcher 2. I wanted to make sure I had a kick-ass PC that could run The Witcher 2.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, man, can I run The Witcher 3? Because it looks really good and
Yeah.
it's really big.
so yeah, I wanted to ask that too. Like, this was one of the first next gen games we saw. Like, I remember when it was like a
that's right.
GI cover story like
In
3
2013.
years ago.
2013, June, July
And
2013.
yeah,
That was back when people wouldn't even acknowledge that there was next gen
Coming
consoles.
to consoles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you looked at the screens and you're like, well, this is obviously not 360.
Coming to
Yeah.
PC and other platforms.
So, I mean, does the game still look that good? Like,
Yep.
Is it that?
Yep.
Yeah.
We went into this, like, they said you're going to play 2 hours. We thought, okay, that's a pretty small portion. They let us play 6. We went in going, like, all right, is this a game? They've delayed it so many times. Like, is this going to be anything remotely as ambitious as what they've talked about? Like, have they scaled it down? Is it different? Is the ambition less? And it's really not. Like, it is that good looking, and the world is that big, and it is that complicated. There's just so much to do and see. It is overwhelming and super exciting at the same time. Like, it's exactly what you want from that kind of open world game where there's these big beautiful scenes and you can like run on horseback across the plains and see something interesting in the distance and go check it out, and it leads you to some new location that you never expected to see. I love that stuff. Like,
Yeah,
that is what a
that's-
good open world game does.
That's awesome.
And in the 6 hours we played, like, we could have gone a lot farther, but we all just took all the time we could to see everything.
I was so impressed by the first demo of Witcher 3 that that's actually what got me into it. Like, I'd played Witcher 2 when it came to 360. Kind of like, I think I reviewed it. I didn't really finish it. It was one of the first sort of reviews I did with Rev 3 Games, and we were kind of experimenting with our model of it. But it was sort of like,
Sure.
I didn't know what the hell I was getting into with that. I kind of didn't really grasp it. I didn't really fully. I guess I didn't really grok the whole like the fantasy that they have set up there. And after seeing Witcher 3, I was like, I'm gonna go give this another chance. I'm gonna go start this over. I'm gonna go read the book.
Yeah.
The first book of short stories is awesome. It's fabulous.
It's really good.
Because it's all just like you don't really pick it up until after a certain point, but it's just like basically perverted fairy tales. Like, they take like classic fairy tales but kind of revisit them in like a believable fleshed out universe. Like, why would this thing be like this? Why would this classic fairy tale ever happen in real life? And they build a world around it. It's awesome. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Plus beards.
Did you hunt anything wild?
So the only
Subtitles.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
The only real thing we hunted was a griffin, because the prologue is basically like, yo, this griffin's terrorizing this town, and we'll tell you where to find this person you're looking for if you like help us solve this griffin problem. And you can go about it a number of different ways, but like the way I did it was I tracked it like using all these different materials. I brought it out of hiding, and then I tracked it back to its home, and I found like it had had this like big nest, and these humans had killed its mate, so it was just like raging out of this town. And there are different things you can find to kind of get the griffin's attention, to bring it out of hiding, to follow it to where you need it to kill it. And it's pretty cool. I hope that's an element that exists throughout, and it's not just like this one-time thing.
Yeah, totally.
That seems like something they really want to do, and I really like the fact that they create mechanics in The Witcher that are like kind of actually built around the lore. Like, they're not just, oh yeah, he uses potions, therefore here are potions that refill your mana, or potions that do this thing. It's like you'll have one like extremely really weirdly specific potion, and the downside is that it's vaguely toxic. Like, the whole thing was in the second one, all the potions had like a toxicity to them. So like, you can't just be like, I'm gonna take 8. It's not like, Skyrim, where you're like, oh no, I got bit by a dog, I'm gonna eat 5 loaves of bread and everything's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, in The Witcher, you're
Just
like,
like real
well,
life.
I'm about to fight a spider by burning it to death. I have to take a potion that makes me resilient to arachnid venom, but also that bolsters my fire spells. So you take like 2 potions, and you're like, if I take any more potions, I will vomit myself to death right now.
Which is like, that's a lot more like real life medicine.
Yeah,
because real life
totally.
medicine is always just like, take this pill to make you happy, but it'll make your butt bleed.
Pretty much.
And there's at the end, there's like a banjo playing, and there's small text at the bottom. It's like, your butthole will totally bleed.
So
It's terrifying.
One thing I'm really excited about The Witcher 3 is that once they finish it, they're going to start working on Cyberpunk, which is going to just rock so much ass. I'm so excited about that freaking game. It's going to be so cool.
That's another side
your
effect.
butt's gonna bleed.
Yeah, but they, God, I mean, it's
God,
just...
I want that box code now. This game rocks ass.
So much.
Max Scoville,
I'll
I
have you know that my copy of MotorStorm Pacific Rift says that on it.
Does it?
Because I wrote it on there with a Sharpie, because I love that game so much. But no,
Were you one of those kids that wrote your name on NES games, or were you a
no,
Genesis kid?
No, I was a tidy kid.
Got it.
I
hated
just
those kids.
I would eat a lot of sticky food and then handle things
Yep.
and get them all messed
I
up.
used to lend people games, and they would write their name on it, and then that's like basically, I think you're
Doesn't
allowed.
make it yours.
You're legally allowed to punch them in the face in front of their parents.
all those people, the celebrities.
Yeah.
They're just like, here, check this out. They're like, oh, sure, I'll sign this for you. Anyway, Cyberpunk. That's what the CD Projekt Red is going to be doing next, and they've announced this a million years ago. They seem to be doing kind of like as much as I.
So
love
what is this? What is this game?
Cyberpunk is based on the first pen and paper role playing game that was based on like Cyberpunk, like Blade Runner and William Gibson novels, and they've got the original guy. Crap, I'm drawing a blank on his
Steven
name.
Spielberg.
It's Steven something. It's
William Gibson.
Not William Gibson. It's
Neil
Steve
Stevenson.
I have a book. I have one of his.
Wait, is that the sorcery guy?
Yave
I think
Yennefer.
it's the guy who did.
Harrison Ford.
Damn it. All I can think is Steve Sansweet, but he's the guy who writes
No,
the
Steve
toy
Sansweet's
guides.
Lucasfilm.
I know who he is. I know who
All
Steve
right.
Sansweet
Power
is.
through it.
Anyway, this Steve
Pablo
guy.
Hidalgo.
I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's the guy who wrote the original game, like
a real guy.
the guidebook and the rule set
Yeah.
for this,
So it's
cyberpunk
the guy who
world.
did like Warhammer and
Steve Jackson.
Probably, maybe not
Yes.
Steve. It's not Steve Jackson. It's a different one. I don't know. He's
Peter Jackson.
God damn it.
oh, angry dad.
So anyway, they got the guy who wrote the original rule set for a really good RPG back in 1984 or whatever.
Yep.
And they're having
George
him,
Orwell.
I can leave. I can just leave. I can just get up and I can leave. And they're having him write the rule set for the game. Like they're having him adapt this. And the original was Cyberpunk 2025, but that's probably when that game's actually going to come out. So this is Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
And so he wants to do it's kind of going to be like that kind of paleo-futuristic approach to Cyberpunk, where everyone's got like cyborg implants and Oculus Rifts and the dumb
Which could still
Matrix-y
happen
stuff.
by 2077. We
Sure,
don't know.
sure.
Yeah.
But like a little bit corny,
Yeah.
just like it's kind of like a little bit too Judge Dreddy and a little bit tongue in cheek.
I mean, that first teaser they showed was
Yeah.
super like serious and on point. It was that
Yep.
that girl and she was half robot. There was bullets everywhere.
But that's
I
at that
remember
point
that.
that's not really like that's almost a fantastic future. That's not really. It's kind of funny because if you want realistic sci-fi, you look at like post-cyberpunk because we already have the internet now and things have kind of changed. But anyway, they got this guy coming in and he's got like a sense of like what actual futurism is, and he wants to really address the fact that everyone has phones.
I'm trying to find this thing for you, but I
Yeah.
can't find it. I can't find this dude anywhere. Stephen Bilius?
Search teenagers from outer space.
Got it.
Anyway, he also did that.
NSFW.
It's a different game. But yeah, so like the fact that everyone does have smartphones, and in like classical kind of cyberpunk, futuristic literature, people have like cyberspace decks. They have like an Ono Sendai. You're going to use this. You're going to use some goggles to hack into the Matrix or whatever. But it's like we don't have the Matrix. We have like
Google.
We've got Gmail and stuff and texting, and I don't think it's going to be quite that realistic as you can kind of guess by the lady with the knives for arms in the trailer. But CD Projekt Red did drop one thing that I hope that I understand this correctly and that this is something they're actually implementing because it is one of the coolest game mechanics I've ever heard about. They talked about how they want to have languages in the game and how you will get cybernetic uplink or upgrades to your like brain that lets you understand language. So you'll be like, instead of getting a Rosetta Stone or whatever, learning how to speak Portuguese or something, you just buy a chip that lets you like a Babel fish kind of thing.
Yeah, like now you can communicate with this.
But I don't know if that's gonna be the thing. They said that they want to have it in the game so you can buy good ones that translate everything or less good ones that are sort of broken. So it's like you're using Google Translate.
Yeah.
Now the third element here that I'm really hoping that they stick to, and I don't know, maybe they'll hear this and they'll implement it or something, but I love the idea of just having a game that has parts of it that aren't translated. And it's like if you speak Spanish in real life, then you don't need to get this thing because you are applying one of your real life skill sets.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Like if they have people speaking like Vietnamese in the game and I'm like sitting on my couch with my girlfriend who speaks Vietnamese and I can be like, hey, what did they say? And she can help me.
They're talking about me?
Like,
Yeah.
otherwise
awesome.
I have to save up and get a chip that teaches me how to like
That's
the fact
really
that,
cool.
Yeah. Like language as a real life ability, I mean, or maybe implementing actual coding and like hacking and stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you have a game that lets you hack within the game to access things in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to just like a stupid like tile puzzle.
Yeah, I love that idea of like if you have a real world skill, you can do something in the game that otherwise you would. It's not that it's locked off to you, but you need to spend in-game currency in order to do this. But if you have a real world skill, you don't.
Yeah,
it's super cool.
I don't know. So anyway, that was a long walk to get there, but I'm really excited about Cyberpunk. That's probably gonna be so incredible when it comes out. But
that's gonna be a 2016 game even.
No, that is gonna come out in 2077. Yeah, but Witcher 3 looks fantastic.
So what else? IGN first. What else can we expect the rest of the month?
Yeah, so we're going to have a big hands-on preview with impressions of, we all played that 6 hours. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to have lots of really interesting new footage. I don't want to spoil too much of what it's going to be just yet, but we've got lots of first looks at stuff that you're going to want to see with like new characters and new locations and new monsters.
More
and all that
Yennefer?
kind of stuff. So maybe some Yennefer.
Mermaids? Do we get to see the mermaids?
No
Mermaids?
Are there mermaids in this game?
Mermaids were the first ladies that they showed off in that game.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I did not fight or seduce any mermaids.
Mermaids are also the presidential first ladies of the sea.
Thank you, Brian.
That's a good.
Anytime, you guys.
Would you like to give us a book report on Bloodborne, Brian?
Yes. So let's talk about Bloodborne. Who here has played Bloodborne?
I played
Me.
Bloodborne.
You played a little bit.
You played a little bit.
I played
You
Bloodborne.
I
didn't-
played for like 5 minutes.
So I went through a very interesting experience with this game. I obviously was sort of scared to get into it because I haven't played any Souls games before, and people just kept telling me how punishing it is and how difficult it was. And I was just like, you know what? I don't really have that capacity in my life for a game like that. But I gave it a shot anyway. And I sat down and I went to play the first few hours. And what I saw immediately was that this is on just an incredible world, just unbelievably realized world, and that it was brutally difficult. But I did find myself like inching through the world to get better and better, little by little, until I got to, as somebody in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group called it, the first street with 20 dudes. And you get to this area in the first town where you've already defeated your first few enemies. You're not very good. You don't really know what's going on. Everything's very disorienting. You really have no idea what's happening. It's like being a newborn baby. And then all of a sudden there's 20 people on the street and they're trying to kill you. So you try 100 different ways of getting through them. And if you're good, you get through them on the first or fifth time. And if you're not, and you're me, it takes you 35 times to get up and down this block, kill everybody, and figure things out. So from there, I found myself at the Cleric Beast, who is the first boss in the game. He's sort of an optional boss. He's the guy that you see in a lot of the promotional stuff. He's the sort of this giant hairy white wolf with one arm bigger than the other. And you fight him on this broken, narrow street with these like crates overturned and carriages and dead horses everywhere, and he just smacks you against vases in the walls, and he kills you and screams at you, and you die, and there's a 42-second loading screen that says the word Bloodborne, and you stare at it, and then you go, all right, I'll do it again. So you run back down the street, you unlock a shortcut. Now you found a faster way to get to the Cleric Beast, and you get all the way to his front door again. You walk down, he howls at you, and he beats you in an even quicker time, and you go, I don't know what I'm doing. Then if you're me, you try 25 more times, and you pick up the controller, and you put it back down, and you go, you know what? I love this game. I love what it's doing. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. This is not for me. I know that in this time I could go play Axiom Verge. I could go play Hotline Miami. I could play something else that's sort of like immediately, instantly gratifying. So I went on the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, and I don't really do this where I like to say, like, when I'm experiencing a game, I don't like to just like jump on Twitter and be like, this thing sucks, or like this show's bad, or this movie's terrible. Like, I like to actually consume it, think about it, and let that go for a little bit, and just kind of digest it a little bit, marinate. In this particular instance, I said, you know what? I've done everything I can do in this game. I'm never going to be the type of person that can really go back in and keep playing this and defeat this guy. So I'm going to go on the Beyond group and say, hey, I should check in with you guys more often. There's 8,000 people in here. This is my experience with this game. It's amazing. I love the world. I love the combat. I love the character design. I love the bosses and art direction. Everything about it is fantastic, but it's not for me. and it's kicking my butt up and down, and I can't do it. And there was obviously a lot of responses to that, and some people said, totally with you. I've tried the same thing. I'm a father, I'm a mother, I have kids, I have a wife, I just don't have time for this. I have an hour to play this game. Other people said, this is not the kind of game you can play in 10 or 20 minute chunks. You really have to sit down for 2 or 3 hours at a time. And some other people said, get back out there. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop posting in Facebook. Get back in there, go die some more, and then talk to us
It's like
about
you went
it.
like, dating is hard, guys. I don't think
And
there's anybody
that's
out there.
totally it. And people are just kind of like, no, I think all women are bad. It's like, well, no, they're not. The one you dated was terrible, but maybe the next one will be fine. So I sat there for a few hours, and I was like, you know what? This. You can write that down. There might be a few of these. I said, this, I'm going to go back and play Bloodborne. And I went back in and I started grinding. And the thing is that no one really tells you about this game is it's very much like an NES game where you have to go to school and talk to your friends about it. Like you have to go on the internet and go on message boards and people give you hints, and it's not everything's laid out in front of you. And Dan Stapleton, who's our reviews editor, he has some problems with the lack of sort of clarity and obviousness in the game design. And I agree that the first 2 hours of that game are designed specifically to make you not want to play the rest of it. They weed people out. And that's why I'm going to make a claim right now. Bloodborne is the Legends of the Hidden Temple of video games.
What?
And here's why. Legends of the Hidden Temple starts out with like 40 teams, right? Like 30 of them fall in the moat, and you never see them again.
Yeah.
And they don't get to interview Olmec. They don't get to go meet the temple guards in the cool maze. They don't win a pair of Ket shoes or a trip to Universal Orlando, Florida, or whatever, anything like that. Nothing. All the weak people get weeded out at the very beginning, and I was almost in the moat.
You were almost the blue barracudas.
I was almost the blue bear or the silver monkeys. And I decided, you know what? The hell with this. I'm going to go back out there. I went back out there and I beat up that street of 20 dudes for 3 hours until I was level 15. And then I was level 20. And then I was level 24. And I went back to the cleric bees and I whipped his ass all over that street with the dead horse and the overturned carriage. And then from there, I went downstairs and I beat the shit out of all of his friends. And then from there, I went to the next boss and I whooped his ass on the first time. And now I'm level 55 and I'm a goddamn warrior. And I'm running around that game like it's mine, and it's amazing. And it's the best. It's one of the best feelings I've had playing a video game in a long time because there's a reward to it. There's a risk and reward to it, and it gives me moments of feeling like when you're carrying blood vials around and you're killing things and you have so much on you, and you go, I can go back right now and cash these in and level up, or
you
I can
turn like
turn
a
the
gambling
corner.
addict.
Yeah, a gambling addict. And it reminds me of driving around in GTA Chinatown Wars on PSP with $50,000 of heroin in your trunk. And you go, I can go see the Rosses and get $25,000 worth of weed, or I can go back to the spot right now and cash in. I'm going to go see the Rastas. So you go see the Rastas, and the cops pull you over, and now you lose $75,000, and you could have had 50, but you almost had 75. So when you have 75, why not 100? So that's how I've been playing, and it's that risk and reward, and it's amazing. It's such a good feeling, and it's now turning into one of my favorite games of all time, and absolutely my favorite game this year. And I almost quit playing my favorite game this year, and I stuck with it, and now I can't stop thinking about it.
So I am at that exact same phase right now. I am on the verge. I'm like having that like bad.
Sorry for all the curses.
I'm having that like bad relationship where I'm like, guys, I think I have to dump her. I don't think I can do it. I just don't think this is for me. And then I go play.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is why I'm here. And then I leave, and I'm like, all I'm thinking about is that Bloodborne.
So I think that first hurdle is absolutely designed to get everybody out. And there are probably 100 or 200 smaller hurdles like that later on in the game, and they just keep coming. They keep coming. I got to one part where, and I won't spoil too much, but I was killed in a forest, and then instead of just seeing the "you are dead" screen like always, I woke up in a terrifying nightmare prison. And I got out of the nightmare prison, and I'm like, and I breathed a sigh of relief, and a wolf the size of a house jumped out of the sky and killed me.
But it's those moments. It's those amazing moments of like surprise and satisfaction that it makes all of that garbage worth it. Like, when you die over and over and you lose all these souls and you don't get to level up and you don't get to buy the fun new hat, you get that like "pray slaughtered" sign, and you put the controller down and you just like scream in your living room at the top of your lungs just to get it out of your system.
Well, and there's like two different forms of joy there. There's the I fought a boss 10 times and finally beat him, or I fought a boss on the first time and I beat him.
Oh my god,
both of those feel so good.
Which I did with 2 bosses in a row now, because I just leveled up onto the point where I'm amazing. That woman that turns into an elk.
Vicar Amelia?
Yeah. and who was it?
Bloodstarved Beast?
And that guy. I mean, That guy was all talk.
Yeah.
Whooped his ass all up and down his little castle. So what I really do like about that, the sort of like hook and response that it does, is that when you do die and you have all your stuff on you, it gets either dropped in the world or it gets sucked into an enemy's eyeballs.
Yeah.
So if you have 50,000 blood vials or whatever, you could just shut the game off and be like, good night, or you could be like, my money's still out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get my money.
I'm gonna go find the
and you
fool.
go back
I'm
out
gonna
there in the
gouge
woods,
his eyes out.
and you run past 50 dudes that are all trying to kill you, because everything in this game is just like, everywhere you go, it's terrifying. So you go back out there and you kill the guy that stole your money, and you're like, yes, and then you run back to your spot and cash in, and it's such a good feeling. Like it's, I don't really get into a lot of horror games because I feel like a lot of horror games aren't scary. They really aren't. They try to be. They're all jump scares. It's all like it's the same.
You play PT?
Yeah, that legitimately changed things for me. But I thought like games like Outlast, it was like, oh, this grape ape is chasing you down the hallway.
Grape ape?
And there's
Is that a flavor of Count Chocula I've never had?
it's just like a big cartoon gorilla guy that's trying to kill you, and you're like, I don't care. Like, you're in the mental institution, isn't that spooky? Remember those? I'm like, no, I have no point of reference for that. But like, I've been in the woods, or I've been in like, I've been walking down the street by myself at night and hearing like noises, and you're like, are these
You've
my
seen a lady
footsteps?
turn into an elk.
I've been to a
Exactly.
Gothic cathedral where
I've been
inside
to
out
Gothic
dog man
cathedrals.
chased
Yeah,
me.
exactly. And that's where it's not that one single thing is scary about Bloodborne. Is that the entire world is atmospherically terrifying. It's just something designed to mess with you. And
So
it's-
I totally had no idea you were going that direction because I saw
Really?
your post in the group and I was like, huh, interesting. Like that's kind of where I'm coming from. I haven't played that much of it. I sat on a 2-hour live stream and watched Brendan play it, and he's our like wiki guide guy. So
oh yeah,
very
he's
good.
awesome.
yeah. And I played for a second in there. He gave me the controller, and I killed like a giant, and I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And I was like a leveled up character already, so probably didn't count that much, but like still dodging it and learning how to kind of control the basic game. I don't know. And then I think the loading times really are kind of a bummer. You know?
Yeah.
So there's
They-
so much
they
to
are.
patch
They
those.
patched
They are.
them, right?
No.
No,
I
they
swear-
are in theory being patched.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
played this weekend. I swear to God, they're faster. Maybe I'm just like totally Stockholm
you're addicted,
syndrome
yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also-
The
also-
mescaline you and your girlfriend took.
My
Mitch,
bad. All the
I
Molly.
mean, I hate to keep just beating this street full of dead horses here, but you played Dota,
Yeah.
which is absolutely a game that you it's all about just repeating stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like going through the same thing again and just kind of grinding away.
Yep,
so.
yep.
So what I loved, and I was this will be my last anecdote about this. I mean, I'm going to keep playing this game, obviously, but when you first start out that street of 20 dudes, to the right, there's this guy, and he's like the size of a truck, and he's got this axe that's the size of a bigger truck, and you go, oh, I'm gonna fight him, and he basically one shot kills you like it's nothing. And later on in the game, you're fighting like 3 or 4 of them
That's
at a time.
exactly where I'm hitting the
And-
wall right
yeah,
now. Was
and it's-
that spot.
But like once you understand the technique, you can go back to that guy in that first town where he just lives in this alley,
yeah.
and you just beat the hell out of him
I am
in
so
seconds.
not scared of those 20 guys now. Like I'm having trouble now in the area where I'm at with like 4 crazy women with sickles
Yeah.
than I am with that street of 20 guys.
And it reminds me of like it's overcoming any sort of adversity or addiction or any problem you've ever had in your life where you're just like, that seems like the most impossible thing in the world right now. But if I come back to the same exact scenario a year later, like
Yeah.
I won't even think about it. Like when I quit smoking, right? Which like it'll be 3 years for me next month.
Attaboy.
I couldn't go to a bar. I couldn't stand outside of a bar without having to smell it and think about how I wanted it, and it was impossible. I couldn't deal with it. I was like scratchy, and I was like, fuck, I really need this. And now that wasn't a whole curse. That was
I know. I don't think I'm gonna write it down.
Let that
and now
one
I'm just
slide.
like I don't care, and that's how I feel playing Bloodborne. It's like that sort of rush of just being like I'm improving, I'm feeling myself getting better. So I'm so glad I stuck with it. If you are on the fence about this game, or you started it and you fell into the moat with the blue barracudas and the silver monkeys, get back out there. Be a purple parrot. Be a
Gets you to
Be an
Orlando
orange
Studios,
orangutan.
So
Atlanta,
it's
Atlanta,
actually
Florida.
it's a great segue here. We have an email.
Yeah.
It says, "Hey guys, Beyond.
Yep.
I have a short question today. Why do you dudes play video games?
ooh.
I am one of those gamers that doesn't play a game to kill time, but more so games are a deep passion of mine. I've been a gamer since I was a little boy, just as you guys probably have. To me, it's better than watching a movie or reading a book. Games have it all. Great stories, well-written pieces of music, and amazing animation and graphics, a collaboration of arts. Games are a wonderful experience. So again, why do you game? Please give a better answer than because it's fun. That's a given. Sometimes it isn't fun. Your brother in gaming, Brandon Gurney from Columbus, Ohio.
That's great.
Does
man.
anybody here play games as an escape?
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
Really?
Yeah. Do you not?
No, not at all.
Oh.
So.
Oh, you played Dota. Yeah, that's.
But that's for me. Like that's a social experience.
Yeah.
I play a game every day with 4 of my friends, or more, every single day.
Yeah.
And I get that like we cooperate and we have like that competitive nature, but we're also socializing the whole time. Like we're just BSing about our day while we're playing this thing.
I don't specifically play games as an escape, but when they end up being that, I'm not mad at them for it. Like
Me
I
either.
don't go like I'm gonna go, but like
It's always an accident. When
it starts happening and I'm really immersed, I'm like, man, this is a great feeling. But it's never like I hate this world. I'm gonna go hide in Liberty City. You know, like I've never thought about it like that.
I've never. Like, whenever I played, like, Gears multiplayer a lot, it was always just because it's like, oh, I just like these maps, and I think it's a really strong competitive game. But when I played Persona 4 Golden, I was playing that a lot and realized, like, oh, I'm escaping something in my real life that I don't want to think about right now.
That's exactly what happened to me when I got out of a bad relationship like 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, and I got dumped, and I hated where I was, and I started playing Saints Row 3 because it was this open world game where I was a powerful god, basically. Yeah. You could do anything you want in that game and crush cars and jump at buildings, and in reality, I was like an ant, but in this game, I was a superhero, and that's probably the only time I've ever used escapism, really.
Yeah.
You guys play primarily for escape?
No, so I think that it's to say it like an escape. I would say more like it's a going someplace else.
Like
It's a vacation.
I like that a lot.
I mean, escapism can be like you're fleeing real life, like you're fleeing a war-torn country, and you're like trying to go someplace better.
Would you say you're a video game refugee?
Yeah, right. Like that's worrisome. There have been times in my life when it's been like that for me, but
it's like Sucker Punch.
Yeah. But I mean, it's also just going someplace that's not real.
Yeah.
It's like I've said this before at some point that games are a cross between toys and dreams, and I totally like I love old side scrollers. I used to always love like Super Metroid, and the basis that it felt like toys. It felt like a play set. You know, it felt like exploring like a little micro machine set. You know, like it's making a little person run around, and there's little things in there. And some people, I've never been good at games. You know, I'm not great at games, and I think it's weird that there's this stigma about that. There's like I feel guilty about it, and I don't like feeling guilty about it. You know, and I'm liking that there are new games that are coming out that are like that let you explore a world without punishing you relentlessly. Like I was thinking about it the other day. Skyrim's a really easy game. Like you can turn it up to really hard and play it with a challenge, and some people are into that, and that's awesome. But I think it's also fantastic that it turns you loose in this world. Saints Row, also a pretty easy game. You know,
very easy.
You just have fun, and it's like I think
super easy to level up and dominate in that world. Yeah,
and there's people who get like weirdly aggressively like against this kind of accessibility, and I can understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, there still are games like Bloodborne that are coming out, and Hotline Miami, and games that really are punishing and are brutal. But I've never played for the sake of like I've never gotten hooked on that achievement. I've never gotten hooked on like the challenge. Really, it's always been more about going to this other place and seeing these other things, and it's like the sense of just, I guess, exploring a virtual space. I've always loved that the most.
I think we're on the same page, right? Like I think it's to be like emotionally challenged, to be intellectually challenged, to be physically challenged, like to be able to like mentally or physically overcome something in a world is really interesting, whether it's like Tetris or something super narrative based. Like even a game where there's no fail state, like Gone Home, you can play that and be challenged.
Yeah.
I love
because there's a reward to it, right? Like my parents had a tough time with video games when I was growing up. They bought me them and they encouraged me to do what I wanted to do, but they would have rather seen me reading books and stuff like that. And I read a lot of books too, but I had to explain to them that like the feeling you get when you finish a book, like reading a story, is the same feeling I get when I finish a game. Where I could get out of school, I could get out of work at the sweatshop where I made these shoes. I would get out of school and go home, and I would beat like Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers or DuckTales because it took an hour to do. Yeah. And the feeling of accomplishment I had was amazing because it was like from start to finish, I defeated this game. Like I made it mine. I made it my story. I made my path through it differently. Like that's the thing I like, that the games have a beginning and they have an end, but the middle is sort of whatever you make of it. Like you can play things differently. You have different play styles. You can run through quickly. You can be slow and meticulous. You can collect everything. You can ignore everything. Like it's such an amazing medium, and that's why I think that I've always been so drawn to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no single reason why I play games. Like I totally echo what you're saying about being able to like explore a new world, which is like assume I do dream, but I never remember my dreams. And so being able to play something like Proteus or Hohokam and be like, man, this is insane. Like, this is something pulled right from someone's imagination.
Yeah.
I play games to, like, be nostalgic and a time travel. Like, stuff like if I play Mario World or if I play Final Fantasy VII, like, it takes me back to the 90s when I was playing these games originally. And I start thinking about where I was living at the time and what I was doing, you know, who my friends were at the time and who I had a crush on at the time. And, like, all of that sort of comes flooding back. There's games, I've totally played games as therapy. Like, Braid and Catherine were 2 games that came out right, like, when I had a breakup.
Yep.
And I associate those games, like,
That's a
with,
1-2 punch of
yeah,
perfection.
yeah, I know, right? Like, seriously.
That's so strange that you bring up the nostalgia thing, because the other game I was switching off with this weekend was Super Mario 64,
Yeah.
which came out when I was like, it was 1996, I guess,
yeah.
and I was a junior, or I was a sophomore in high school, which is about the most uncertain time in a human being's life. And I was like, I didn't know who to eat lunch with and who I was friends with and stuff like that. But in this game, you could run around and jump on. You could fly.
Yeah, totally.
Like, which I still don't even know. I don't understand how they made that game with no point of reference for any 3D games before it, really. But yeah, it's so weird how, and then going back and revisiting something like that when you're not in that time anymore, sometimes it's really difficult to do that. And sometimes it sort of becomes like, oh man, like, what was I worried about back then? This game's awesome. I'm having a different level of fun with it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Another thing I think is as you get older, the way your brain kind of fantasizes, or the way your brain works out imaginary scenarios is entirely different. And I remember when I was a kid, like I would play with action figures. Like I would literally just play with them and make up scenarios, and I'd have like Boba Fett fighting my Beast X-Men, and I'd be like, I don't have any cool
canon.
I don't have any cool Star Wars. I don't have any actual Star Wars aliens for him to fight. So he's gonna fight Beast. Close enough, whatever. And I'm on my living room floor, and I have to make up why my coffee table is what it is. What is it? It's a plateau or something.
Yeah.
And then I run around the woods. I lived in the country, and I would like make fake guns out of like wood and stuff, and just go creeping around. And it's like when you're a kid, you can run around your neighborhood with toy guns, and you can get away with that. You do that as an adult.
Back then you could.
Sure.
Yeah, but now you get arrested.
I mean, way out in the woods, way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I had like a old ski pole that I would chase wild turkeys with, like I could do that, and I'd be like, these are demons, I have to chase them.
Yeah.
My friend and I would walk around my neighborhood. We're like, we're in Warcraft. I'm a Oglin Doom. That's the name of a orc I made up. Like you could have an imagination, And now there's so many more. I think I have an adult brain, and I start recognizing like that suspension of disbelief is harder to achieve. You build up a tolerance to reality, and you're like, you understand more things, and therefore there are more questions whenever you're presented with something. And video games, they present you with they present you with a world that's thought out for you, and that's what I love about something like Skyrim or The Witcher or like Mass Effect or whatever. And these are games that someone else has kind of prepared this world for you, and they're like, you still have to figure out the problems in it, but the world is built for you, and the world is there for you. And I think that's really thrilling, and that's incredibly exciting. It's funny though, Brandon, I think it's Brandon in the email said that he likes games better than books or better than movies. I don't necessarily like them better.
Yeah,
I
like
find
them
that differently. Yes.
Yeah.
The kind of I thought about this in the kind of books that I like are the ones where the whole world is fleshed out. Some of my favorite authors, William Gibson, who kind of created cyberpunk for the most part, and his books are so much more about environments. Like they're about he'll list off everything in a room. He'll describe the tiniest, weirdest little details, and it's all like kind of physical details. So it really just you start creating this world around you as you're reading it. And I have like a very visual imagination, and it's very much about like a sense of place, so that works for me. And I've always loved movies like Star Wars and Blade Runner, where it's less about you don't just have this talking head in the forefront. Like there are incredible amounts of detail in the background, little tiny like gizmos, and like I like Boba Fett because there's so much stuff on him, and you're like, what is that? That's Wookiee scalps. Why does he have Wookiee scalps? Because he killed them. So I don't know. Yeah, and I love games where you have so much stuff like that going on. That's I've never gotten into Borderlands because Borderlands doesn't really scratch that itch for me. It's too much about like you pick up all these different guns, but the guns are kind of like randomly generated, and they'll sort of have information around them, but there's no like, they're like, if just Nerf guns were randomly assembled, and they're kind of endless, So
game. I mean, they also like all four of us do creative stuff outside of IGN. And there's those every once in a while you'll play a game. I mean, whether it's like something like The Last of Us, which has just amazing character building and world building, or something like Tearaway that like takes the idea of mechanics and of a video game and just crushes the fourth wall. And I play stuff like that, and I'm like, man, this is really like going on to inspire my creative writing outside of this. Just the way, like, it's absolutely inspirational to see stuff like that.
So speaking of Boba Fett,
That was great.
Nailed it. Yeah, that was awesome.
That was an amazing email.
Great question.
yeah, really,
Wow.
really good question. He wrote us 3 emails, and so one of them passed the test, I guess.
That one won.
Where can people send emails?
They can do it's just
Beyond
beyond,
at
at
IGN.com.
IGN.com. Beyond at IGN.com. Star Wars Battlefront playtests. What do we want from this game that we have not actually seen in action?
Mitch, this is you.
Yeah, Star Wars Battlefront's getting revealed in 2 weeks at Star Wars Celebration. I will be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be
Yeah.
there
Oh
too.
my God, you guys.
So-
probably
Hey
got
guys,
it.
I'm not,
Celebrate
hey guys,
Star
I'm not going
Wars.
to be there.
Ewoks.
Do you like the Star Wars?
I love the Star Wars.
What's your
Which
favorite
one?
Star War?
The Phantom Menace.
No one knows which
Get
one
out.
that is because it's a phantom. Disappeared.
I get it.
Did you know that the police did the theme song of the Droids cartoon? Is
What?
That, right?
That
Did I make
sounds
that
like
up?
a real fact.
I've never heard that before.
I don't know
feel
if
like
I made that
wouldn't
up.
hear that.
That could be a real fact, or I made it up.
I think you.
I feel like I didn't make it up. Anyway,
All
sorry.
right,
Mitch.
we can look that up later. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's getting revealed. We're gonna get a trailer. I have no idea what we're gonna see, but EA is currently recruiting people to do playtests in Vancouver and Redwood Shores. Pretty sure these registrations are closed. Sorry, you can't go if you didn't already register. But people are gonna be playing this game, and I want to know from you guys. Like, this is a game that I don't know about you. This series is like super near and dear to my heart. I'm really excited that EA. It decided that DICE was going to do. EA and DICE decided, you know what? We're not going to try to do a Battlefield game. We're just going to do Battlefront.
Right.
You know what really was kind of infuriating was that there was I remember the announcement of this that DICE was going to be working on it. Like, that is the most obvious thing. I don't know how weirdly too close to something you have to be to completely miss the point of
Yeah.
that. But they were like, they didn't ask DICE or something, and like DICE was like, hey, if you feel like it,
If you have a
and they were-
game, we
and
can
they
make
were
a
like,
game.
They were like, really? Do you guys like Star Wars? It's like everyone likes Star Wars. You got what? Yes, of course they should
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of job, like in game development, when someone says, "Hey, you're going to spend the next 2 years of your life on, a match 3 puzzle game or Star
Star Wars
Wars." Like,
Battlefront.
that's the one you want,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
you
Also,
know?
if you're spending 3 years on a match 3 puzzle game,
That better be
you're
a
not-
damn
You're
good-
not doing well. In Trouble Again, the opening theme song to Star Wars Droids was written by Stuart Copeland of The Police.
Wow.
And performed by
Nice.
Copeland.
But it was not the
Sting.
police.
It wasn't Sting. Doesn't count.
So this
Not
game,
canon.
this game is not only important because it comes from a very powerful legacy, but also because it's filling the hole that 1313's cancellation left. Like,
Yeah.
we need that. We really need that next we need that next great Star Wars game to happen. And
We haven't had one in a long
we haven't had one in a very long time. Like there's been. I'm trying to think of what the last great Star Wars game was.
Republic
Knights of the
Commando.
Old Republic.
Yeah, I
Or
guess
Knights
so.
of the Old-
Yeah.
Was that after?
Republic
And that-
Commando was
Tiny Death
2004,
Star.
2005.
Tiny Death Star. Yeah,
Tiny Death
sure,
Star was good.
Sure,
Tiny
I'll
Death
give you
Star
that.
was
It was a good
great.
game.
I'll give you that. So it's important. I mean, watching that whole the 1313 story happen, and then the cancellation happen, and then the sort of what it could have been happen, crushed me.
was
That
rough.
was
Yep.
to just be like, hey, here's Uncharted and here's Star Wars. I'm like, great, 2 of my favorite things in the world. They're coming together at last. Oh, awesome. Who's making it? Really talented people. Cool. When can we play it? Never. It's canceled and it's gone. Damn it, no.
Yep.
So to see something in the meantime, like an amazing Star Wars game potentially happen, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
I really hope that I hope that they have a campaign in there. You know?
Yeah,
I do
we were
too.
just talking
Me
about
too.
that.
So
Battlefront-
that's why
Yeah.
I've assembled this group today. This is why I've brought you all here. I want to know. I have like this massive serial killer wall of like things that I want from this game. I've made you a small list today.
boy.
I've solicited some feedback from Twitter about what Twitter wants.
Yeah.
And I want to know what you guys want. I'll hang on to my list, Max. Why don't you tell me more?
That looks
about
like a
yours?
third grader's notebook.
Yeah, I got little doodles of a Ninja Turtle hand on here, a little helmet, robot man, whatever.
Stuff I Want in Star Wars by Mitch Dyer, age
That's
9.
literally what this list is.
You drew like a hand that is he doing the Force? Is that
I don't know
that
what
is?
he's doing. I just drew a thing around it.
Okay, it looks
it's
like-
kind
yeah.
of a Ninja Turtle with lasers around his hand, whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, you want a campaign?
I want a campaign.
I am totally with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care if it's kind of dumb and silly. I just
Yep.
want something that is because like I grew up on Dark Forces, Jedi Knight stuff
Yeah.
like that. I like the multiplayer stuff is great, but it takes me a little bit out of it when I'm like in there and then it's like El Loco Raptor 420 is like in there and I'm like
Yeah.
or I like hop in there and I'm like somebody's actually doing like Darth Vader breathing in the mic, but they're not meaning to. Or you hear like their sister come in and they're like, it's like, Mom, and you're like, damn it.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm right here.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, so in the New Dawn, the Star Wars Rebels book that just came out, on the inside flap of that, there was a list of like every novel, and then it's like Star Wars Rebels is here in the canon. It's a timeline of the canon. In the middle of that, after New Hope, is Star Wars Battlefront.
Really? Interesting.
So
Wow.
it is canonically instantly after New Hope.
This is interesting.
It
When
is
is
the canonically most recent thing after New
New
Hope.
Dawn comes after Jedi, right?
New Dawn is old. It's Star Wars Rebels. It's like pre
Oh, okay,
New
okay,
Hope.
okay. So what's really
Post-Sith.
interesting is I've been reading the Star Wars comics that are out right now.
They're all so good.
They're really good. If you guys aren't watching them, or
Kanan
reading
just came
them,
out this week. You should read that.
I don't want to read prequel stuff. But that's the thing is
It's
that they're doing.
Don't be dumb.
They're growing out from A New Hope. Like I think this is pretty conscious on Disney's part. Like all of the new Marvel Star Wars comics that are set, at the classic trilogy period are set immediately after A New Hope. Like they're just right out the gate. They're like, here's what Princess Leia's doing. Here's what Darth Vader's doing. Here's what Han and Luke are doing. And is Kanan just around Rebels period?
Kanan is the Jedi in Rebels.
Okay.
And
Oh,
it's
there
his,
you go.
So,
yeah.
but it's like his backstory, which they don't explore in
Okay.
Rebels. So it is Clone Wars era. But
That's right before A New Hope. Like they're kind of basically just growing out again, and it's really that's interesting because we know the prequels are there. I feel like that's probably still sort of a sore subject for a lot of people. So they're kind of they're kind of trying to build up towards what's going to happen in the new movie.
Yeah.
Interesting to think that they would have a setting for Battlefront. That would seem to imply that there is a campaign.
So that's like I would love that, especially if it is like some kind of like if they have a short story. Like I don't care if that campaign's an hour and a half long. It's just like, hey, this is like what happened on Yavin after after the Death Star blew up.
Well, yeah, or like bridge, Yavin to Hoth. How do we
That'd
get
be a
there?
really
like,
good.
What,
yeah,
what
really
does the
good.
rebellion do in that time period?
That'd be
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
I really hope there is a campaign, and I hope it's longer than an hour and a half. I think a lot of people are looking for a good story with whatever the next Star Wars game is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want a mix of that. I want foot stuff. I want flying stuff. I want that. There would be a good balance of that. Like we had the last game that really. I mean, think about like what was it, Rogue Squadron? That was that the one where you could like those games were great, but the more you started getting out of the ship and running around, the more all of the systems started falling apart.
Yep.
Like all the on-foot stuff in those games didn't work.
Right, like it was cool to be able to, as Luke, hop
that was
out of
the
your
third
speeder
one.
and like
Yeah.
jump up into an AT-AT, cut it open, blow it up, and get
Right.
back in.
Totally.
But
Like
why not just shoot it down?
yeah.
But also, like, I'm imagining the battles in this game. I don't know. This is probably not going to happen, but having the Battle of Endor, the entire thing, all four sides of it going on at the exact same time. So you have the troops on the ground. You can hop into a ship. You can literally fly up to the Death Star and engage in the battle there.
Or
It's
you
all
can-
the
you can be an
exact
Ewok.
same match.
Or
Or
it
you
would
can
be-
be Ewok. And
I
just-
want Ewoks. I want Ewoks in there. I know they're stupid, but if they manage to make them cool and like they're really fast
and
or
you're setting
something,
up traps
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome.
your
I don't,
thing
I,
is-
great. You
Yeah.
can climb trees and no one else can. Or
Your
something.
thing's really interesting. Sorry, go
No, I was
ahead.
gonna say I've always loved Ewoks because I love Return of the Jedi.
Me too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But,
The
but to your point about going like,
do you remember Dust 514?
yeah.
Yep. The whole EVE Online and Dust 514 hookup.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
man,
Because-
yeah.
Which was one of the coolest ideas that kind of didn't really. I don't know if that panned out or not because it's EVE and no one knows what's panning out there because
Yeah.
they're just fine. They're good. They're up in Iceland with their boiled whale and having a good party. Anyway, they had this thing where the Dust 514 was on PS3 and you could play it. It was a third person shooter on the ground. You could shoot guys and run around in jets and stuff. But all the planets in that game were reflected in the PC version of EVE Online. And the naval battles that were taking place intergalactically of people shooting each other's ships and stuff and the goon swarm coming in and messing everything up were reflected in Dust 514, even though there's a different platform. So people on the ground could call in like aerial strike, not aerial strikes, orbital strikes. Thank you for knowing the term
got
for
you.
a thing that doesn't exist in real life yet.
No problem, man.
But yeah, you could call in an orbital strike and then it would actually send that request to somebody playing EVE Online. And that kind of concept is nuts.
I love the idea of the ground troops have to infiltrate. They have to get that shield down before the people in the sky can get to the Death Star because the shield's still up. That's really interesting. Every tweet I got was, "Yo, ground to space battles, ground to space battles. Let me hop on an X-wing and take off into space."
It'd be kind of boring though.
I agree because it would fracture the fight. But if there's an objective like that, that's really
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
At the same time, the way I'm imagining it is, I would imagine there would be a Battlefield Bad Company 2 Rush style separation where, as the rebels, you go in, you infiltrate this base, you blow up the thing, You did it. Now you move on to the next phase,
Yeah.
which is you all get in your X-wings and you go out into space, and then you do it in the same mission.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Like the phase as the Empire, you are succeeding as long as you're on the ground.
That was kind of what I was alluding to. I don't think I want like constantly jumping in, jumping out, but
Yeah.
having a setup like that would be really smart.
God, I mean that's something that I feel like Helldivers sort of like they didn't really do that, you know. But the fact you could see everyone's dropship,
Yeah,
and the fact
yeah.
you could call in people from other games, I'd like to see. This is kind of a long shot. I'd like to see some actual character creation, and this is obviously kind of a
Interesting.
balancing nightmare. But like the Rebel Alliance is they're kind of a ragtag bunch. You know, you've got some uniforms and
Yeah.
stuff, but it's also I don't know. It'd be interesting to see some. Like obviously the show Rebels, like they're kind of rough around the edges, you know. I'd like the idea of being able to create your own person, like your own role. And if you want to have more kind of a rank and file type of thing, maybe you could be an Imperial, you know. But like maybe you could be a bounty hunter, and you could kind of mix and match your armor. You could pick your different. I
would love that.
stats
Yeah,
and stuff.
I would absolutely like that. Would appeal to me, and I would be a lot closer to my character than if I was just random
that's
rebel
like
gunner.
what
But that's the
Destiny
point.
did.
Like that's always been the point of Battlefront that I always thought was really interesting is you are not the hero. You are not the guy that goes and saves the day. You are an expendable soldier. You are just some random stormtrooper who's going into battle and is going to get shot randomly by an X-wing. Goodbye.
Well, that's also a kind of funny thing is because like the amount of rebels you see in the Star Wars trilogy, like you've got you've got a handful of guys in on the Tantive 4 in the beginning, and then the rest of it is following like a really small group of people, and then in Empire you see you kind of get a bigger sense of that. But by the time they get to Return of the Jedi and they've got like a proper thing going. They got like a weird group of people. They got fish guys. They got Lando, who's like, just sorry about that time I screwed you guys over. Just business is business, you know.
Have you seen Star Wars Rebels?
No, I haven't watched it.
You should.
Should I watch it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it is like such a great character drama. It's really fun. The characters are great. It's beautiful, all that stuff. But like this show is the birth of the rebellion.
I like that.
And there are really, really interesting twists toward the end of the show that show like, oh, this existed. Like this was here before these people knew.
You know, what'd be a really cool thing for Battlefront to do would be to bridge the gap between like Clone Wars and original trilogy by having like weird surplus stuff. Like so in the Star Wars comic that's out right now, I think it's either Star Wars or Darth Vader. It might be Darth Vader. Vader goes after some pirates, and the pirates have a bunch of repurposed destroyer droids that have like grenade launchers and crap on them, and it's kind of great because they're like, here's this weird like it's like fighting a bunch of Claymore mines where you're like, here are things that are left over from a war that's been over for 20 years, but they're still really dangerous. You know, like it's like I like the idea of this kind of this weird repurposing of army surplus, or like people who've been like the Trade Federation falls apart, but somebody
But like their technology is still there.
yeah. And people are making use of it. I mean, like you get like Somalian pirates in real life are using leftover AK-47s from whenever the hell that was a thing. That's a gun that was introduced in 1947 that's still used pretty readily.
Well, that's like a really interesting way narratively to kind of mash the worlds together to have like, okay, the Imperials want this old technology, so they're going to go into this like old beaten down fortress, but the battle droids are there. Like the Trade Federation is there. Like remnants of them exist and they're going to defend, but then you kill them all and you get the technology.
Well, the people who'd be using it would be the rebels. They'd be the ones repurposing
As an
that.
example.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe Empire wants to destroy it. Whatever. Like there are
Empire's got
reasons
some-
you could have rebels and Imperials fighting against battle droids.
Yeah, I think it's just I like the idea of I'm always kind of there's always been that divide just aesthetically between periods of between the years of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And people didn't really bridge the gap that well, but like it'd be kind of cool to have like
Rebels is doing really well.
All right, fair enough. But I mean, to
I'm
take
telling
some
you,
of
you
that-
will love
All
Rebels.
right, fine. For the sake of conversation on this podcast.
I was gonna start watching that this weekend actually.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Can't recommend it enough.
Red
It's
Bull.
really short.
Cool. Well,
I got like 30 more things, man.
oh,
I
go
can keep
for it.
going.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Obvious stuff. Star Wars Rebels expansion. Boom. Star Wars Episode 7 expansion. Boom. I think a lot of those are going to have to be aesthetically different. Guarantee you that if either of those exist, sure the Episode 7 one will. That'll be paid.
Oh yeah,
Like
that'll
you
be
are not
paid
getting
DLC.
Episode 7 Stormtroopers without paying that extra money.
Yeah.
Yep.
We talked about getting a campaign. I still want in-atmosphere dogfights. Like I don't want to have to go to space for that. We had a tweet from, oh God, where is it? From William. He said in space he wants to take down ships, and then that transitions
boarding.
into boarding,
Oh god.
right?
That's awesome.
Like you disable it and then you board it and then you take
That's-
stuff. And,
yeah.
Just take that. Yeah, take that.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed.
Which again plays into like the idea of Battlefield Bad Company 2 rush style gameplay. I don't ever want to play as a Jedi in Battlefront. A lot
Yeah,
of
me
people
neither.
do. In Battlefront 2, you could basically just get a kill streak, and that would let you play as Boba Fett or Darth Vader or Obi-Wan or whatever. I don't want any of that.
Why?
Because the thing about Battlefront that's interesting for me is you are that expendable soldier, and you are the one little guy making that big difference in a big battle. And to suddenly take that away, and it's like, now I got a lightsaber. You're playing a different game, and that's not why I'm there.
That feels like a perk. No, you're totally right.
And I don't want that major advantage. I don't want I want to fight alongside a Jedi. I would love for okay, we're there, and Darth Vader is here, and he is fighting alongside us to get to the Rebel base. And we are protecting him, and we are ensuring that the path is just paved for him.
Yep.
Like stormtroopers do. Like when he boarded Tantive 4, he had this flank of stormtroopers with him. It was awesome. I want that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'd like to have lightsabers as a weapon, but not just be super overpowered with them.
Yeah.
That's one thing that really bugs me.
Like you don't quite know how to use it?
Is in the prequels, there are a million lightsabers everywhere. And theoretically, somebody collected them, like General Grievous or whatever, or Jawas, or somebody's just like, we're going to sell these. We're going to sell these to grade schoolers, and they're going to put each other's eyes out, whatever. Here's a laser pointer. But Obi-Wan's like, here's a very special thing, and it's like, we've seen how many of them there are. You know, there's no,
But that was the big deal thing. Like Luke lost his and had to make a new one.
He couldn't just go out to the Five and Dime or whatever, the old, go on eBay, look up lightsabers. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool if you could have lightsabers, but it's really up to you if you want to use that. It'd be like using, I don't know, like using a sniper rifle, where it's like you kind of have to be good at knowing what you're doing. Like, you're gonna, you gotta get close.
So that's the thing of vehicle combat is a huge thing in dice games, and when you hop into an AT-AT and an AT-ST, those are enormously powerful things. But I want it to be that kind of risk. I want you to have to be good to use it effectively. To that end, I would love it, because the entire game is a first-person game. A lot of people want a third-person camera. I kind of like the idea of sticking to first.
Yeah.
Because I want to sit in a TIE fighter cockpit in first person. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of getting into an AT-ST and just having that crap window to look through.
Yeah.
Well, I have amazingly powerful guns, but I don't know anything that's anywhere else around me.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I'd like it to be a little bit like Titanfall, and there's gonna be dudes jetpacking and grappling, hooking up on there, and Ewoks throwing logs at you, and you're just
traps and stuff on Endor would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Great.
I'd love if you were in an AT-ST in the cockpit and you saw the side of a tree trunk come in and basically kill you.
Yeah.
It's just like,
or I want a kill
awesome.
streak perk to just be the Death Star destroys the map and everyone loses.
The Call of Duty nuke.
Yeah.
That'd be so great. Alex tweets, he says he wants to jump from his crashing speeder bike onto his friends. And that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
Totally want that.
I would like for space combat to have separate objectives from ground objectives, rather than, it's conquest, but you're in space, and you have to get out of your ship, which is fun to get in and just do ground combat, but in space. Have separate stuff going on, destroying or taking down a Corellian Corvette or something else like that. Jeff says that he wants Tauntaun combat. Big fan of that. John says he wants Bantha combat. Big fan of that.
Yep.
What about that Dubak? What about Dubak?
Bantha combat?
Dubak.
like battering rams into each
Except
other?
they're just really slow.
Like riding a Bantha.
Be like
and
the
shooting
Far Cry
things off
elephants.
the
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it would.
Just with a lot of hair on it, yeah.
Okay.
But I would love to be out on Hoth and be like, all right, well, some people take Tauntauns, and I got
Now I want a Tatooine Far Cry game
Jeez.
That would be pretty good.
man.
with Kawaki and lizard monkeys jumping out of the trees trying to kill you.
They made it. It's called
pulling your eyeballs
They
out.
made that
oh
game.
my
It was
god.
called Far Cry 2.
You have Tatooine malaria.
That's all I got.
I'm
Cool.
excited for this video
Star
game.
Wars
That's
Battlefront.
a lot of fun. All right, finally, we got one big topic, which is the forgotten legacy of Deus Ex: Human Revelation, and why we're excited for a new one, and also the fact that
Revolution.
Revelation.
Human Revelation.
Revelation. Sorry, yeah. Human Revelation. Yeah. The Twitch. Square Enix has been streaming this weird viral thing on twitch.tv/can'tkillprogress. We don't know if it's Deus Ex. It seems like it could be.
Sure looks like it. Like
It
all
was
of the imagery between the camera shots is that angular shapes and colors, like the triangular kind of shapes that looks kind of polygonal.
Sure.
Like there was
It's also hot right now.
It's true. But there was that original image.
I don't know if you've been on Tumblr, but Tumblr isn't a Deus Ex game, and there's a lot of bunch of that crap on there.
What if Tumblr has been a Deus Ex ARG game for,
For
the past,
10
like,
years?
10 years? Yeah.
Would
That'd be
explain
amazing.
why I don't understand it.
But yeah, a lot of the imagery is very triangular in the way Deus Ex's imagery was, and there's high-tech stuff, and the handcuffs the guy's wearing have that exact yellow shade glowing out of them. And
I'd be down with some more Deus Ex.
Me too.
Yeah, Human Revolution was awesome. Mitch and I were talking about this earlier. It's weird that everyone loved that game when it came out. What was it 2012?
11.
11?
Yeah.
We all dug that game when it came out, but no one talks about that game anymore. Like
Yeah.
everyone still talks about Skyrim. Everyone still talks about Dark Souls.
Yeah,
everyone still talks about
it
GTA.
had its problems.
Well,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
like what happened was it came out and it was awesome, and then there was a mobile port of it, which was weird.
Well, that was a separate.
fall.
different game.
Yeah, but it was like set in the same sort of
Universe,
in
yeah.
the same universe. And then they ported that mobile port to PC, which was bad. So people's last two sort of tastes of Deus Ex are kind of sour.
And it was like there was a bad novel and a bad
Yeah.
comic.
So
A bad Wii U port.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. So
Woof.
there's
Yeah.
there was just like it's not they didn't really just end on a high note. Like they end on a high note and then they came out and played 3 bad songs. And it's just like
Yeah.
So that's my big worry nowadays with anything is that you see stuff like this and it's like, check out our new game, it's Deus Ex. And you're like, awesome, it's coming to iPhone, and you're like, damn it. And like, I get that. I have no problem with iPhone gaming. I play some games on my phone, but when it's a game like that, which I feel like should be realized on a console or on a PC, like full fledged in all its glory, and it's a basically like swipe to attack puzzle game like on iOS. Like, I'm less enthused about that. So I'm always worried. I'll wait until something actually comes from it.
I
to
really
get
doubt
excited.
that they'd be promoting an iOS game on Twitch.
You never know.
I mean, that's true, but it would seem kind of just a little bit tone deaf and barking up the wrong tree, given that not a whole lot of people on Twitch stream iPhone games.
Yeah.
They do here and there.
Here and there, but it's like they know what they're going. That's a core gamer crowd.
Yeah. No, I'm being cautiously pessimistic.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
do we know when this thing ends?
So the Twitch description is like, yeah,
Whatever you want.
the Twitch description for
There's a
this.
human revelation.
There's like a box beneath it that says like voting phase begins on whatever time it started today, and then there's another thing on the next day, and then it's like the final voting phase is 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would assume that they will announce at the end of that.
Yeah.
Whatever the voting phase is, I don't really know. It's
So
super unclear.
So if a new Deus Ex gets announced this week, do we think it comes out in 2015?
no,
You don't think it's a fall game?
no.
They might say it is and then push it.
Ah!
No, we're getting to the part where they're going to start to gear up for games that are going to get announced at E3. It's
Yep.
not
Yeah.
that far fetched.
Oh, totally.
I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll see it this year, maybe 83 or sooner. Like maybe there'll be an event that we'll go to at some point in the
I
near
would
future,
say
but-
like in general, and somebody asked that about Fallout. Like, do you think it'll come out this year? And I'm like, I doubt it. Like, I think it's so hard to keep a secret for anything now. I have a feeling like we know most of the games coming out this fall, and E3 might confirm a few new ones.
Sure.
But I think anything new that gets announced this year, not anything, that's a kind of a dangerous blanket statement. Most new games that get announced this year probably won't come out this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are those handful, and Bethesda is one of those companies like Rockstar and like Valve that's just like, no, like we don't tell you what we're doing, and so when we reveal
Totally.
a game, it might be done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Except Doom.
Do we know what their sort of like the last few Fallout games have looked like in terms of that? Like, was it like announcement and then release, or was it
Yeah, I
like
think Fallout
Yeah,
3 was
3
announced
was.
and released in the same year.
that's
Yeah.
insane?
I don't know what they
Okay.
did with New Vegas, but that
Cool.
was not Bethesda proper.
Yeah.
Did they even publish? They must have.
Yeah, they
published.
published
Yeah,
it,
they
yeah.
published it.
Obsidian.
They were pretty tight though. Their model for a second. I think they did this with. I think Dishonored was revealed in a Game Informer cover, and then it got a trailer at either E3 or VGAs, and then it was just like out the next year.
Yep.
Or something.
Yeah.
And, like Skyrim was like then announced
At the VGAs.
at 2010 at the VGAs, and then that was out
Out the
because
next
they
fall.
had 11/11/11 as a release date.
And they're like, well, we got to do
Because
this.
they're like, we can't miss this.
There's so many ones.
I love when that happens when they're just like, "Hey, we're making a new game you never knew about, and it's out next month. Goodbye." That's
Yeah.
the best. It's so much different. It's so different than like, "Hey, you ready for Zelda? Cool. See you in 2017."
I'm so excited for some new games to talk about,
Yep.
because this year has so far been a lot of stuff that we were just waiting for.
For last year.
A lot of
Yeah.
stuff that
Or
was,
stuff you played 2 years ago.
yeah,
Yep.
pretty much, but it's prettier now. Speaking of new stuff, there's new stuff. There's new stuff. Let's talk about
Hit
the
me.
new stuff.
Oh,
The
this
new-
isn't even.
That's not news.
We forget the news ghost. We keep forgetting.
Where's the ghost? Where that man hasn't haunted or
Somebody
woman hasn't
busted him.
haunted
He
the
got
show. in a
busted
while.
for possession.
You can't do
Did
that
I make
every
that
time.
again?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
You
I
can't
just-
do
I
it every
literally-
time. That was literally
Sorry,
that's the kind of joke you
I
do.
forgot I made the joke. I'm
You forget to
embarrassed
take
now.
your Alzheimer's medication.
You have twice. That's twice now.
I should have said he
three
was
times
busted
and
for stealing
Beetlejuice
a
will
car.
appear.
The ghost stole a car.
Why would
Yeah.
he steal a car?
I don't know. To to get to the other side.
Of
Ah!
See, it's a ghost joke.
that's good.
All right,
that's
turn
good.
it
I see
around.
what you did there.
All right. Coming out this week, we've got Aru's Awakening for PS4 and PS3. This is a really good month for PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of new games for you.
Aru's
You're
Awakening.
just reading Plus games, not.
No,
No,
games coming out
it's
this
all-
week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Aru's Awakening it's inspired by the teleporter in Unreal Tournament, but it's a hand-drawn like surreal platformer.
That's
like
the
that-
story behind it.
It's like
That's
that-
so
those
weird.
weird
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Okami dog platformer looking thing.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
pretty.
It looks
Very
really
beautiful.
it looks really weird. It looks
Yeah.
a little bit like the Max. I kind of
Yeah.
get that vibe from
Yeah.
it, which I'm into. We're gonna make that the first part of our video game book club that we're
Yeah.
gonna do.
Yep.
Is that thing you're doing?
Yeah,
That's the thing we're doing.
we're gonna do it
Nice.
with a PlayStation Plus game, a free one every month.
Oh,
And
that's
we're gonna be
great.
like, hey, everyone who has PlayStation Plus can play this game.
Somebody got real salty and sassy saying that we ripped off Greg and Colin, who are doing a similar thing. But
Or One Up
it's-
FM that did this many
Sure,
years ago.
Yeah.
exactly.
Or book clubs that have done
Yeah.
this for
Or
uh,
drunk
decades.
moms who've
Yeah.
done this for
or
hundreds
tablet
of years.
stone
Yeah.
clubs that started when people etched.
Yeah.
And sometimes there were cave drawing clubs. Where
Um,
I don't want to tell you your idea is not that original, but
Also, our book
everybody's-
club can be neat, and the kind of funny book club can be neat. You can be a part
Yeah.
of 2 book clubs.
That's true.
but like
Not a third though.
You might
No.
not go
Don't go
a backlog.
GameSpot.
But yeah.
go to all the book clubs you want to go to. Do
Yeah, so
whatever
if you got a PS4 or PS3 and you listen to our show and you'd like to be part of this discussion, Aru's Awakening is free
Yeah.
for PlayStation Plus right now, so you can.
We'll
jam
start a
on that.
thread on the Facebook group.
So how's this gonna work? We're just gonna start playing it and then start talking about it little by little on the show each week.
Yeah,
Next
we'll,
week, yeah,
we'll
whatever.
talk
send
to
some
people on the
emails
Facebook group.
beyond the
Yeah,
IGN.
I've never
emails.
actually been in a book club, you guys. I'm really
Me neither.
excited about
It's-
this invite.
Most of them are just an excuse to get drunk.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a lot
we
of
might
like.
not do that here, but you know.
My mom was in a book club and they just got together and gossiped about the town, not the movie.
The Ben Affleck
Yeah.
thriller.
All right. Next up, we got Bastion.
Yeah,
coming to
coming to
PS4.
PS4.
Yeah.
It's out today.
There you
this
go.
goes up on Tuesday. That
If
game's
you
amazing.
missed this on every other platform,
It's never been on a Sony platform though. It
Really?
Never, yeah, never
Did not
appeared on
have a
PS3.
I feel bad now. I feel
Yeah,
dumb.
this is the, if
wasn't
you
that out
liked-
for Ouya?
Ugh,
No, seriously, wasn't that out for Ouya?
probably.
Could be.
yeah.
I think it came out for Android.
It's on
and
iOS
available-
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
awesome game.
Very,
yeah.
very
If you
pretty
liked
cool
Transistor
action
and never played it, this is Supergiant's first game. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally not a fan
I
of
actually
it.
think it's better than Transistor.
Whoa.
Oh wow,
Not a
crazy
fan.
talk for me.
Whoa.
I love Transistor so much more.
Really?
Yeah, like
Transistor.
the story and combat is like way better.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway,
I think you're wrong.
Dark Souls.
And yet we're still friends.
2.
That's how that works.
Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin.
Yeah.
It's going to PS4 and PS3.
Yeah,
Marty,
Are you
are
reviewing this?
you?
Yeah, my review might be up by now.
Good luck.
Depending on when this is. Yeah, so this is the sort of like think of it as the like Game of the Year special edition version of Dark Souls 2. It's coming. It's on PS4 and Xbox One now. It's also coming out on PS3 and 360, which is weird.
There's different stuff.
Can I ask you a
There's
question?
different stuff, yeah.
Now that I've sunk 25, 30 hours into Bloodborne, is this a game I should try?
It's gonna feel weird going back to it. 'Cause
Yeah.
it
It's a
feels
very
weird for
different
me
game.
going back to the game. The game is much slower,
Yeah.
and combat is very different.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
Also
if
played
you,
Dark Souls 1.
yeah, but I mean, you can't play Dark Souls 1 next gen. But yeah, this
Yeah.
has the game looks gorgeous. It runs incredibly. It has all 3 Crown DLC pieces, which are awesome and have amazing dungeons and bosses. And it also has harder enemies and different enemy placement. And this game is really hard. Like I'm like 4 hours into it, and it is very difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff. Like you'll walk into an area and go like, I don't think that guy was there before.
Yeah.
I think I can take him, and you certainly cannot.
Yeah. But if you finish Bloodborne and are still craving more, pick this up. It's
Cool.
Good video game.
Another PS Vita game coming out is Element 4i, and I was checking this out. This looks kind of awesome. It's very whimsical indie platformer thing, but you basically play as the 4 elements. You're like a little. You can be air, and you're like a little ball, and you can be fire, and you're a little ball that jets around, and you could be, I guess, a rock, and you slide on stuff, and then water makes. I don't know. It's like you're just kind of swapping between behaviors and then platforming your way through the world. It's got a soundtrack by musicians. Actual musicians,
Like
it's
Moby.
an exceptional soundtrack by
The Police.
Mindtree.
Mind Tree, not
Which
the police.
it's if you're into like whimsy, and it's very pretty. Might be worth
I have a
checking out.
feeling pot was involved in this game.
Yeah,
Not to sound like a cop, but that would be my guess.
yeah, yeah. It looks cute. There's also for PS4, PS3, and PS Vita. This is cross-buy. You can get Crinkle Crusher.
Oh, thank God.
You want,
Finally.
Both of them have
if you want to
Ks.
crush some crinkles.
Yeah.
Wait, both of those words have Ks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have clarified
Getting a
that.
little close to
Clarify
3K.
also.
Just saying. I don't name games.
Now here's our next book club.
We got 2 book clubs.
We're doing 2
Oh,
book clubs.
man.
So whatever Sony platform you have, assuming it's not a PS2, you can get in on this, and it won't cost you anything if you have PlayStation Plus, which you probably should because it's a really good service.
Yep.
Monster Bag.
Whole bag of monsters.
Yeah, whole bag of monsters.
That sounds
it's
awesome.
actually the bag itself is a monster. This is one of those Vita games where I watched the trailer for it. I don't know what it is. It looks like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, but apparently you're a bag who you're a forgetful Nia leaves behind her monster backpack V on her way to the bus stop. In a world afraid of monsters, help V catch up to Nia, avoiding being seen by the humans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, watch out for the apocalypse.
Wow.
Classic
I
apocalypse.
have no
just
idea
getting
what this
in
game
there.
is about, so
We're going to discover it together.
yeah,
Oh,
we're gonna
okay.
talk about that too over the next
And bags.
few things. Stealth Inc. 2: A Game of Clones. It's coming to PS4, PS3, and PS Vita. Cross-buy. I played a little bit of the first one, and I was not a fan of it. It was
Vince really liked this one.
Yeah, I
okay.
don't
It's
mind
one of
these
those.
games.
It's one of
This
those.
was a
fun.
Wii U game, right?
Yeah.
It's a.
Yep.
It's a, what is it? Stealth puzzle platformer where you play the role of a clone escaping a sinister and high-end
You're a
testing
little man.
facility.
You push around some blocks. You hide in
You're
some
kind of
shadows.
Despicable Me-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little minion guy.
Tower of Guns. It's coming
Yep,
to PS4
I'm
and
in.
PS3.
What's that about?
Peace,
This,
y'all.
this looks awesome. This looks like a lot of fun in a totally weird, stupid way. It is a roguelike, procedurally generated, first-person bullet hell. So if you've ever wanted to be inside a shmup, running around, and you wanted each level to be different with magic and math, then that can be yours.
All
All
right.
right.
It looks totally ridiculous. It looks like if Borderlands ate peyote and just
Jesus.
was having a really bad trip. I don't know.
I like that.
But yeah, it seems very kind of like old school, just the good shooters
That's
when they
free
were good.
with PlayStation Plus, too.
That is also
Yeah.
free with PlayStation Plus. It's a really good month, so
Yeah.
get out there and get some free games.
No more PlayStation Minus for you guys. That
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm
Yeah.
having a good time. I'm excited to play Monster Bag.
Got
I'm
some
actually really
Plus
looking forward to that.
Yeah, go over to the our Facebook group.
Yeah.
The
Pop in
Podcast
there.
Beyond.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about the game.
Get those conversations going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make some friends. And of course, you can email us. We are just beyond at IGN.com. You can find all of us on Twitter.
Wait, Max.
What?
There's one more segment.
Was there one segment? Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. The secret thing. I'm sorry.
It's not even a secret thing.
I'm sorry. Well, I said it was secret to make me feel
Yeah.
better about it.
Oh, okay.
It's really hot in here.
Yeah,
I
it is
trust
really
you
hot
and I
here.
love you all, but I have to go shoot a video about.
I also have to go soon.
About pizza stuff.
Wait, so do you want to save the segment for next week?
No, just power through it.
Okay, we're gonna power
Let's
through
do
it. Essential 50. In case you don't know, a lot of people have been. If you tune into the episode and you're confused, we are each week picking a game that we think is one of the essential 50 PlayStation games from any PlayStation platform.
Yep.
PS1 to PS4, Vita, PSP. We're usually skewing towards exclusives or first-party games. Not necessarily. Brian chose Killer 7, which
Yep.
is a super rad game. This week, my choice is Ratchet & Clank: A Kraken Time, which, in my opinion, is the last great and the best Ratchet & Clank game. I don't know. Are you guys fans of the Ratchet & Clank series?
Here and there.
Yeah. I thought Kraken Time was great.
Yeah. So Kraken Time, it sort of took what Insomniac did so well with the originals, where it's like, here's this really good sense of humor, this really funny, cartoonish Pixar sort of world, and these really charming characters, and then gave this really amazing time travel mechanic to it, where you and Clank get separated, and you're slow. Clank has his little minions of zonies and little robots that you're guiding around the world, but also it has the best weapons of the entire series. I love their what Insomniac does with their weapon progression is the more you use something, the more powerful it becomes. And so it's allowing you to say, like, hey, if you like using the tornado gun or if you like using Mr. Zircon, this is going to become more powerful as you go on. Yeah, I adore that world. I think the core mechanical loop of killing things, exploring, and then upgrading your character is fantastic. The writing is spot on, especially in this version. The series has sort of tapered off a little bit with there was the multiplayer version, the All for One, which wasn't that great, and then there was the tower defense one,
Yep.
which I didn't like as much.
Aren't they making a movie?
Yep.
So they're making a movie.
They're also
and
remaking
they're
the original.
remaking, the original Ratchet & Clank for PS4
Yeah.
from the ground up. Which
Wow.
we haven't heard about that in a while, but
We
maybe
haven't-
that's gonna be one of those games
We
that
haven't heard about either of those things in a
no,
while.
maybe we'll see more of it at E3, and that'll be the game that one of the PS4 games that fills the fall void.
Sure.
There's got to be something.
Yeah, but Ratchet & Clank is as someone who misses the era of 3D character platformers, it's one of the few things, especially on a PlayStation console, that's still carrying that torch.
Yep.
And I really, Kraken Time to me is the best place to start, and it's the best one of them. And I really hope that the Ratchet & Clank reboot, remake, or whatever it is, sort of brings that series back. Because I enjoy that series.
Pretty cool.
Thumbs
Good
up.
pick, Marty.
Sure.
Yeah, I did it.
Sounds good. All right. On that note, Now we can leave. I'm apologize for trying to end things abruptly.
No, it is just
It got
really hot.
so
Really
hot in here in
hot
the last
in here.
10 minutes.
I don't know what happened. Anyway,
A dog died
you
underneath
can
the
follow
table.
us on Twitter.
Jesus.
I'm Max Scoville. Marty is McBiggity. Brian is Agent Bizzle, and Mitch is Mitchy D. And you can check out the stuff we do on IGN.com. Go look at that. There's a lot of it.
One last thing, there's Spotify is on PS4 now.
Oh
Yeah.
God, we didn't even talk about that. It's
And
awesome.
You can listen to custom soundtracks through Spotify while playing anything you want. So if
That
you're
is
playing a
great.
game this weekend, listen to my album. It's called Misanthrope under Brian Altano. It's on
is your album
Spotify.
on
Spotify?
Yes, it is.
All right.
And
cool.
RDO
Is it going to be
and
on
everything.
Tidal?
It's already on Tidal.
Is it on Beats?
Wait, is Tidal a real thing?
Title's a real
Will,
thing,
is your
and
album-
it's already on there, and nobody asked me if it could be on there. Jay-Z, where my money at?
Cool. All right.
So yeah, it's instrumental music. Go listen to it. Love you all.
Yeah. You can play some Battlefield Hardline and shoot people while listening to Backstreet Boys. Which
That's
is a
right.
Weird,
That's
weird
another thing you can do.
juxtaposition.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. On that note, Beyond.
Beyond.
Beyond.